Appreciate you being here today and working to answer these questions. I want to follow up on the good gentleman from Lehigh County, the line of questioning. There was a Spotlight PA article. It was published, I believe, the 23rd of January, and your spokesperson was quoted as saying that the deleted records were because of human error. And then further, you indicated to Chairman Dush that there are policies in place with regard to the hosting and securing of that data. Is that correct? So it begs the question, were all of your office's technology policies, procedures, processes, and controls being followed when this incident occurred?
Again, just the specific, I think, ability of the individual to delete the servers was because they were a server administrator, and this was sometimes in the course of the duties of a server administrator, you actually do have to delete servers. This step was taken at the inappropriate time.
So your office's policies, procedures, processes, and controls were being followed at this time?
All I can say is that, again, this was a human error, and there are many surrounding policies and controls.
I understand that it was
Right.
a human error.
Right.
We all make mistakes,
Right.
right? And I get that. But again, if your office's policies, procedures, processes, and control were being followed and in place, how was this allowed to happen?
I understand, Senator. I do understand where you are, and this is not avoiding the question at all. This is part of the long-term investigation that we're doing. We've been taking this apart piece by piece. We were able to identify what happened and what happened and transpired, but we're continuing to do the look into questions. What do we need to do short-term, long-term, and how did this happen, and how we fix it?
So I think, depending on what your answer is, our response is going to be very different. If everything was being followed and you said yes, then we would say to you, what are you going to do to the policies, procedures, processes, and controls to make sure that it doesn't happen again, right?
Absolutely.
If not, then, that's a whole different response that's going to be needed.
Right.
So can you see what we're trying to get at?
I do, and I think, Senator, there's a few ways that we're looking at this, but fundamentally, it was self-reported, and again, I can't get into all the details, but we are looking at a long-term investigation. What we're looking at, I understand completely what you're looking at. There are pieces
And
of this.
I'm going to have to ask further questions and
Sure.
delve as deeply into the weeds as the gentlelady from Chester County, Montgomery County, my apologies, Montgomery County. Because I think we have to get ultimately to the answer. So do you use a virtualization platform?
Yes.
What virtualization platform do you use?
I don't know that we can get into details quoting vendors, but we use virtualization platforms, which is standard industry practice. It's just a different way to get more capacity and have more flexibility around storage.
Right. So of the 77 servers, are they replicated?
I'm just going to consult over to my CISO here again when it comes to details around how our servers are set up, and I think that's, again, getting to a level of detail that we don't want to share in a public forum.
Do you conduct failover testing, and how often is that conducted?
We absolutely conduct failover testing. It's on a regular basis. Just for context, we support over 6,300 servers, so I couldn't give you a specific answer in the frequency for such a broad footprint, but yes.
So you obviously have different virtual servers that are running different loads for different agencies, departments, commissions. How are you keeping the security between the different organizations?
Yes, I'm going to hand over to Jim, but simply put, there's, servers are constructed so that data that shouldn't be commingled is kept separately. That's just a basic principle of any server design. Jim, is there anything you'd want to add to that?
Is there further information you need, Senator?
Well, I mean, look, I am trying to understand why one server was unable to be recovered, and trying to get to understanding of that, why that happened. I mean, ultimately, were the backups for the one server corrupted?
They were not corrupted.
So what is the purpose of your other data centers? Would those 77 servers be replicated to another data center outside of the main one here in Harrisburg?
The architecture of how we have our system set up is not something that we can discuss in public. However, we do use different techniques and technology to ensure that certain applications or certain databases are appropriately placed in the right locations under the right circumstances.
I want to go back to a question I had asked with regard to the server being unable to be recovered. And I asked if the backups were corrupted, and you responded no. So if the backup wasn't corrupted, why couldn't the data for that server be restored?
Again, I think just, we don't want to go into the details of exactly how we access our servers and backups in a public forum.
Okay, so, the fact that we were not able to restore the data and it was not replicated or duplicated, whether it was in a physical server or in a cloud, I think it's troubling, and I think that's something that we probably need to have further conversations on with the committees. And Mr. Secretary, as we close out this hearing, I really just have one final thought, and that is 4 years, I have been saying that the mismanagement of the Office of Administration was creating a vulnerable environment for our state's IT. Over the years, I have called for a restructuring. I have held numerous hearings on the issue. I have had meetings, numerous meetings, private meetings with the former CIO. And I have always been met with resistance. Everything that we have proposed, Republicans and Democrats, everything would draw a veto threat. I was always told this: the status quo is working just fine, Senator. I don't understand what your concern is. And then I was told about the copious awards that the agency was given, I assume as a way to show that things were going well. Mr. Secretary, I would contend that things are not going well. And they haven't been going well for quite some time. And I think that the mismanagement of our state's information technology is evident. And at this point, I have to say, enough is enough. Something has to be done. And I appreciate your commitment here today of saying that moving forward, we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again. But my question for you is, are you willing to work with the legislature to create a statutory framework for our state's information technology?
Senator, a few things. One thing on the mismanagement. I don't want to point fingers, go back in history. That's not my place. What I can tell you, and I can get to the legislation in a minute, what I can tell you is this organization is not the same as it was. I was brought in by the governor to make sure that this organization did not operate the same it's been. I've committed to turning this around. It is a huge, mammoth, Herculean effort to do that. And just, we are doing that and bringing on Amaya was a game changer for us. And the structure, and I don't want to get into too much. It's not that it's not for public consumption, but we're still finalizing it. The structure, the reorganization that we look at will not be anything like it looks now. The focus is going to be on where are we with new technology, where are we with infrastructure and security, and everything being based around those things. So with the, as far as with the legislation, I think we can agree on that, is that this is an executive branch responsibility. I understand your frustration, I do. And I was a customer when I worked at another agency. So I do understand some of challenges that customers have. But what I think is that the legislation isn't needed with me at the helm of this. To be honest with you, I have the full support of the governor to make the changes that we need to make, and we're very aware of where there are issues. We're very aware of where there's shortcomings, and we're going to take care of that. And you have my word, and I understand we have very different opinions on where we are with the legislation, but right now that's where I stand.
Well, Mr. Secretary, we're going to hold you to your word.
Absolutely.
Because the citizens of this great Commonwealth deserve the very best. And this information, it is so important. It's critical. It's not just the personal safety and security of our citizens and their data. It's our infrastructure. It's so many things for so many people. So I think this committee, under the helm of the gentlelady from Montgomery County, is well positioned to work with you. But again, I'm going to hold you to your word that those changes are made, because really enough is enough.
I agree, and I would like to be held to those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.